Embodiments of the alluring power of pleasure, keeper of secrets, bringers of temptation, and festers of pain, are the hermaphroditic greater demons of Slaanesh. These potent servants of the Dark Prince take pleasure in taking the noble ideals of others and twisting them to pursuit of their selfish ambition and self-gratification. A keeper of secrets exists to destroy dreams and fulfill nightmares, growing ever more powerful in the intensifying emotions of those they fight. Zarakaina, also known as the Bringer of Torments, the Soul Eater, the Unholy One, and the Angel of Despair, is a keeper of secrets, a greater demon of Slaanesh, and a legendary enemy to the Eldar. Of all of Slaanesh's unholy servants, this greater demon is revered above any other keeper of secrets. Summoned from the darkest recesses of the human psyche, Zarakaina was bestowed demonhood as Slaanesh's perfect creation. Eldar Farseers fear her as the Soul Eater. She is the physical representation of mankind's repressed emotion of jealousy, sadistic pleasure, and cardinal desire. This potent mix contributes to the creation of the Dark Prince's most feared and prolific demonic killer. The name of Zarakaina is written large in the Ordo Malleus's grimoire of true names, ever since the Sherilax incursion, when the pleasure cult of Sherilax rose up in a violent rebellion against the repression of the planetary governor. The sadistic violence of the cult members pleased their god greatly, and he cast forth his angels of desire to lay ruin to the planet. Led by Zarakaina, the Chaos cults ultimately overran the governor's palace, and the fate of the defenders was too horrific to contemplate. Eldari legends speak of Zarakaina preying upon the species several times throughout their long and troubled history. The greater demon has ravaged several exodited worlds on multiple occasions, slaughtering their kin and feasting upon their spirit stones, condemning them to an eternal torment at the whims of her dark patron Slaanesh. At one point in her history, she crossed paths with the Chaos sorcerer Iskandar, as well as his Drukhari companion Nefertari. Nefertari was mortally wounded in this fight, and Iskandar used his psychic powers to defeat Zarakaina in his rage. Though the Chaos sorcerer was unable to permanently kill her, she was badly injured to the point where she was taken out of action for more than a Terran millennia. Along with the Bringer of Torment, the Ordo Malleus has knowledge of another ancient keeper of secrets, Kyrus the Perverse. In a rare alliance between the forces of Khorne and Slaanesh, Kyrus the Perverse served as one of the two demon lords alongside Kabanda during the Horus Heresy. These two demon overlords orchestrated the Cygnus campaign in a coordinated effort to lure the Blood Angel Space Marine Legion to the Cygnus sector and corrupt them to the worship of the ruinous powers. This scheme was primarily done to draw the Blood Angels away from the Segmentum Solar, as to not interfere with War Master Horus's plan to launch his final offensive on Terra. Unknown to Kyrus, both the War Master and Kavanda intended to use him as a sacrifice in order to drive the angelic Primarch Sanguinius into the depths of a rage that would pull both himself and his legion into the worship of the Blood God. After a climactic battle with Kavanda, in which the Bloodthirster was forced back into the Immaterium, Kyrus schemed against Sanguinius and attempted to tempt the Primarch with a devil's bargain. He would spare the Angel's sons from both the Red Thirst and the Black Rage if Sanguinius was willing to sacrifice himself to take the rage within him and step into the realm of chaos. But Kyrus' plan was foiled when the Blood Angel's apothecary, Meros, volunteered himself in his Genesire's stead, becoming the demonic entity known as the Red Angel in the process. Enraged at the loss of one of his sons, and to honor Meros' noble sacrifice, Sanguinius sliced Kyrus' head from his body, sending the greater demon screaming back into the warp to face the displeasure of his dark master. Alongside the greater demons that have attacked the Imperium, the Inquisition has records of ancient evils that have attacked other xeno-species, such as the Eldari. Such is the case for Ser Gleaming. The origin of the Keeper of Secrets, known as Ser Gleaming, is not known amongst the savants of the Imperium who study the dark secrets of demonology. But what little information that can be gleaned from the various sources is that Ser Gleaming was once a master of a powerful warband of chaos demons known as the Murder Vault. The Dark Prince had formed this formidable host comprised of demons from all four chaos gods in order to consume the souls of the Eldari world of Lohayak. Slaanesh ensured the cooperation of the other ruinous powers by bargaining gifts and worlds to ensure their compliance. No less than 4 Eldari craft worlds band together to defend the gateway on Lohayak at could gain the demon's entry into the webway. The war between the Murderval and the Eldari lasted for many solar years, until finally the demons closed in on their prize. The gateway was protected by 3 powerful avatars of Cain. Using great cunning and guile, beasts of Nurgle, known as Moldkin, attacked the avatars en masse. Distracted by this threat, Ser Gleaming launched the Murderval into a flanking attack and utterly annihilated the avatars. With their prize in their grasp, the demons were ready to enter the webway, but their plans were foiled with the arrival of a new threat in the form of the Drukhari host, led by a troop of Harlequins. Bogged down by the Eldari reinforcements, this allowed the Eldari Seer Council to seal the webway portal permanently, denying Slaanesh his prize. Ser had failed his dark patron in achieving his coveted prize, and had been defeated by the valiant efforts of the Eldari of Lohayek. Leaving his host bloodied and humiliated, Ser's powers and influence was left waning. Soon, a rival demon prince sought to gain control in his stead. A beautiful and cunning demon prince named Corflich Lothard, who was sworn to the Lord of Change Tzeentch. He duped the greater demon of Slaanesh into yielding the power of the Murderval into his stewardship. He promised Ser Gleaming that he would return the demonic host once it had claimed its millionth soul for his patron god Tzeentch. But Ser had been tricked, and soon found himself imprisoned within the impossible fortress, Tzeentch's home within the realm of chaos, and the leadership of Murderval fell under Corflich Lothard's control. While Ser failed his patron god, there have been other Keeper of Secrets that have fulfilled the pleasures of the Dark Prince. When Slaanesh desired the jewel known as Keres, an Eldar craft world rich in souls and drifting dangerously close to the Eye of Terror, the covetous Dark Prince and his minions gathered in a great host to seize their share of the prize. But Keres was extremely well protected. Wards of energy sealed the craft world from the webway, and Eldari warriors patrolled the silver river that led to its gate. With siren calls to the Eldari, the demons of Slaanesh assembled around the craft world, attempting to enchant those within with their voices of desire. For the most part, they were ignored, but a few were lured from the sanctuary of their craft world with the whispers of promised decadent adventures. One particular innocent Eldari girl attracted the attention of the Keeper of Secrets known as Heartslayer. Her innocent soul blazed brightly within the warp, but at its heart lay a dark shadow. This flickering enigma attracted the attention of the Heartslayer, who resolved that within the girl's spirit lay the key to taking the craft world. Clad in the guise of an Eldari male, the Keeper of Secrets traveled to the Silver River and bewitched the maiden with his glamour and guile. She fell under the Heartslayer's spell, and was soon convinced to return with him to her home. Covered in the love that only an Eldari could give to another, Heartslayer was able to penetrate the impassable barriers of the craft world. Seeking the means to open the great portal, Heartslayer discovered it was held fast by a psychic key, one he found held by the maiden's father. As the Eldari male slumbered, the foul greater demon ripped it from about his neck, and used it to open the wards upon the webway, allowing Slaanesh's vicious demonic hordes to descend upon the unsuspecting craft world. Heartslayer finally revealed his true form, his terrifying visage towering over the frightened Eldari. Drawn to the heart of the craft world, the greater demon made his way towards the chamber where an avatar of Cain, the incarnation of Keres' warrior spirit, still slumbered. The Heartslayer gloated over its dormant form, inert and helpless. Then some spark awoke the avatar spirit, rousing it from its slumber. Blazing into life, it seized the Heartslayer and attempted to strangle the greater demon in its unbreakable grip. But since the avatar had not been awoken and tamed properly with the sacrifice of the soul of an Eldari High King, the soulless thing remained a hollowed construct. Seizing an opportunity, the Heartslayer was able to invest himself into the shell of the avatar, perverting it from within. The Keeper of Secrets, in the burrowed form of an avatar of Cain, led the Slaaneshi demon host in an orgy of destruction. They gorged themselves upon the Eldar souls for many solar days and nights, as thousands fell to their insatiable thirst. Slaanesh finally claimed his prized jewel. The empty and desolate craft world continues to drift alongside the edge of the Eye of Terror, its corridors still ringing with the psychic echoes of the death cries of its people and the laughter of the demonic slayers. One of the greatest Keeper of Secrets encountered by the Imperium was the greater demon known as Amniak the Golden. The true origin of the Keeper of Secrets, known as Amniac the Golden, are basically unknown. Based on what few scraps of information the inquisitorial investigators have been able to gather, during the latter century of the 39th millennium, the greater demon in Amniac was the Scour of the unsurveyed Golwyn Belt. He conspired to pull an entire star system into an anomalous region of the time-space continuum, where he could feed from the billions of souls held captive within the warp rift. In this way, no outside influence would be able to reach him or prevent him from carrying out his hideous plan. He would be able to consume these lost souls without fear of retribution from the might of the imperial forces of the Emperor of Mankind. Upon his ascension to Greater Demon, Amniac had assumed a truly gargantuan form, bestowed by his patron chaos god Slaanesh, as close to physical perfection as was possible. Amniac spoke with a voice like that of rolling thunder, his gaze of benevolence like the first rays of sun after an eternity of night. Amniac's charisma and presence was such that whoever saw this towering manifestation of perfection worshipped the greater demon as a god. The demonic hosts that followed in his wake were even perceived by the population of the Golwyn Belt as shining angels. So narcissistic was Amniac's aura of deception that those mortals that worshipped him traveled far and wide as his missionaries, spreading the good word of Amniac the Golden and his benevolent teachings of harmony and tolerance. The favor held by Amniac with his patron Slaanesh instilled more and more conversion to his self-gratifying religion with each passing day. His favor with the ruinous powers enabled Amniac to attempt to bring his dark scheme to fruition. He sought to orchestrate a galaxy-wide mass sacrifice of such a magnitude that it would push the Golwyn Belt across the skin of reality into the Keeper of Secrets' promised land. As Amniac reached the zenith of his power, every one of the planet's population on the belt adored their chosen god. This false faith became ingrained in the population over the centuries, as his image graced every altar, grail, and banner on 100 different worlds. Their faith in him was unshakable, for their god walked amongst them in the flesh once every generation. Appearing as a god incarnate, Amniac appeared to his adoring people as a benevolent deity, spreading joy and light, whereas in reality, he spread chaotic corruption and false hope. Under his demonic influence, he instructed his followers to construct vast golden colossi in his image at the heart of each city. These edifices took entire bloodlines many generations to complete. Their scale and perfection was as faithful a representation of Amniac as the finest sculptors of that day could create. Many hundreds died in their creation. This was all the better in the eyes of Amniac, for his ultimate plan neared its completion. Despite the remote location of the Golwyn Belt, Amniac's burgeoning presence in the warp had not gone unnoticed by Imperial astropaths. The Inquisition soon launched an investigation by their most talented psychers to determine the nature of the threat possessed by Amniac. As soon as they discovered the dire threat represented by the Keeper of Secrets activities, the Imperium launched an Imperial fleet of a then unprecedented scale, dispatching them towards the Golwyn system. Proceeding only days after the millennial celebration, Amniac would fragment his consciousness into countless parts in a great ritual, instilling a piece of himself within each of the golden colossi at the heart of their disciples' cities throughout the system. As his minions blindly ended their pathetic lives at the feet of these mighty titans, their forfeited souls would flow into each statue, granting Amniac the ability to exist within these hundreds of statues. With his golden titans, he would be able to achieve lasting immortality and indestructibility, feasting upon the captive populations of his pocket dimension in the warp, in a reign of terror that would last for an eternity. On the eve of the millennial celebration, Amniac's plans were in place, and it seemed nothing could stop his ascension to godhood. Around each of the golden titans were gathered millions of the faithful, chanting Amniac's name in unison and debasing themselves as they prepared to sacrifice themselves to his glory. Amniac's consciousness filtered into the statues as his vile chaotic ritual reached its climax, ready to gorge on the departing souls of his disciples. But the Imperial fleet had wasted no time. Such was the sheer scale of the golden idols that they could be detected from orbit, and above every one was an Imperial starship. At a prearranged signal, each of these craft launched a lance strike upon the exact location of the Golden Colossi. Each of the sacrilegious structures was blown apart in an instant, the explosion killing every one of those who were faithful to Amniac's false religion. Only those few who had not bowed to Amniac's religious conversion of the Golden Belt remained alive. In a stroke, the Imperial fleet had not only obliterated Amniac for eternity, but also selectively destroyed virtually every adherent to his faith. The dawn of the 40th millennium did indeed see a new world order dawn upon the Golden Belt, as the ecclesiarchy dispatched priests en masse to convert the confused and frightened survivors to the Imperial cult. After such a potent display of force, none dared question the might of the Emperor of mankind. Today, the elite regiments of the Imperial Guard's Goldwind Strike Corps number over 200, and their planetary tithes regularly exceed even the most stringent demands of the Administratum. But let me know what you think in the comments section below, and we'll talk tomorrow. This was Gershwin with One Mind Syndicate, signing out.
Always used to put my freedom first in any situation.